the long-simmering tensions between Israel and Iran have exploded into open conflict, marking one of the most significant military escalations the Middle East has seen in years. Overnight, on June 12, Israel launched a meticulously planned and highly aggressive military campaign, codenamed Operation Rising Lion. The primary targets were the cornerstones of Iran's nuclear program, including the heavily fortified facilities at Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. The strikes were not limited to infrastructure, they were a direct blow aimed at decapitating Iran's military and scientific leadership, a move of stunning audacity. Israeli officials have since claimed the operation was a preemptive necessity, asserting that Iran was on the brink of possessing enough enriched material for multiple nuclear weapons. The aftermath in Iran reveals the scale and precision of the Israeli attack. According to reports, the strikes were devastatingly effective, resulting in the deaths of a substantial portion of Iran's senior military command. Hossein Salami, the powerful head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and General Mohammad Bagheri, the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces, were among the high-profile casualties. Israel's claims suggest a near-total elimination of the top tier of Iran's nuclear scientists and military officers, a loss that will undoubtedly cripple its strategic capabilities for the foreseeable future. The damage to the Natanz facility, a centerpiece of Iran's enrichment activities, has been described as significant, raising concerns about potential contamination, though officials state it is contained. Iran's response was swift and furious, though seemingly less effective than the initial Israeli assault. Under the banner of Operation Severe Punishment, Iran launched a barrage of more than 100 drones and over 50 ballistic missiles toward Israeli territory. Air raid sirens blared across major cities like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, sending civilians scrambling for shelter and transforming the night sky into a theater of interception and explosion. This counterattack was Iran's attempt to project strength and demonstrate that an attack on its soil would not go unanswered, turning a covert shadow war into a direct and undeniable confrontation between the two regional arch-rivals. The exchange of fire has plunged the region into a state of high alert, fundamentally altering the strategic landscape. For years, the conflict was defined by proxy wars, cyber attacks, and clandestine operations. This direct state-on-state military action represents a dangerous new chapter. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defended the strikes as a necessary act to safeguard his nation's existence, framing it as a defensive measure against an existential threat. However, by taking such bold and aggressive action, Israel has also risked igniting a much wider regional war, pulling in other nations and global powers into a conflict with unpredictable and potentially catastrophic consequences for all involved. In the face of this rapidly escalating crisis, President Donald Trump's reaction has been a study in contrasts, showcasing his signature blend of hardline support for allies and an ever-present willingness to negotiate. Immediately following the Israeli strikes, Trump did not mince words, publicly lauding the operation as excellent and very successful. This open praise for Israel's military action served as a powerful signal of American backing, reinforcing his long-standing position that the United States is Israel's #1 ally by far. He expressed little to no concern about the potential for a broader regional conflict, projecting confidence and asserting that America would stand firmly with Israel against any Iranian retaliation. This robust endorsement of Israel's military campaign comes after reports that the president had, for weeks, been urging Prime Minister Netanyahu to delay any such attack. Trump's administration had been pursuing a sixth round of nuclear negotiations with Iran, and the president had hoped to give diplomacy more time to yield a result. His preference was for a deal, but Israel's decision to act preemptively forced a shift in his public posture. The president's praise for the successful raids can be seen as an acknowledgement of Israel's sovereign right to self-defense, especially after his own administration's diplomatic efforts with Iran had stalled over Tehran's refusal to halt all uranium enrichment. Yet, even amidst his strong words of support for Israel, President Trump has deliberately left a door open for Iran. In a series of statements, he has continued to message directly to Tehran, suggesting that a second chance is still on the table. He has made it clear that Iran can still make a deal to avoid further destruction, framing the current crisis as a choice for the Iranian leadership: either negotiate with the United States or face continued isolation and military pressure. This dual approach, praising a military strike while simultaneously offering an off-ramp, is a hallmark of Trump's foreign policy, keeping both allies and adversaries off balance. This complex messaging reflects the internal dynamics within his own administration and the Republican Party. Hawkish figures have long advocated for a more confrontational stance against Iran, while others, more aligned with an America First viewpoint, remain wary of being drawn into another Middle Eastern war. By both celebrating Israel's military success and maintaining the possibility of a diplomatic resolution, President Trump navigates this divide. He reassures his pro-Israel base of his unwavering support, while also preserving the option for a negotiated settlement that he can present as a personal victory, a deal to end the conflict on his terms. While President Trump openly praised Israel's offensive, the United States military played a carefully defined and purely defensive role in the ensuing conflict. U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have been quick to emphasize that American forces were not involved in the planning or execution of Operation Rising Lion. There was no American participation in the initial strikes on Iranian soil. This distinction is crucial, as it allows the White House to maintain that the U.S. did not initiate hostilities, thereby avoiding a direct act of war against Iran, while still providing unequivocal support for its key regional ally in its moment of need. However, when Iran launched its retaliatory barrage of missiles and drones, the U.S. military's defensive umbrella over the region was immediately activated. U.S. Navy destroyers positioned in the eastern Mediterranean, equipped with advanced missile defense technology, worked in concert with Israeli air defense systems. American-operated assets including the Patriot PAC-3 and THAAD systems stationed at various bases in the region were instrumental in tracking and intercepting the incoming Iranian projectiles. 2 U.S. officials confirmed this defensive assistance, highlighting a seamless integration of American and Israeli military capabilities to protect Israeli population centers from harm. This posture of defensive support without offensive engagement is a delicate balancing act. It allows the United States to fulfill its security commitments to Israel and demonstrate the strength of their alliance, without being dragged into a direct offensive war that many in Washington, including figures like Vice President J.D. Vance, are cautious to avoid. The action sends a clear message to Iran: while the U.S. may not have participated in the attack on your nuclear sites, it will absolutely use its formidable military power to defend Israel from any counterattack. This defensive shield effectively blunts the impact of Iran's retaliation, further tilting the military balance in Israel's favor. The successful interception of the vast majority of Iran's missiles underscores the technological and strategic superiority of the combined U.S.-Israeli defense network. While 5 to 7 missiles did manage to breach these defenses and cause minor injuries from shrapnel in areas including Tel Aviv, the overall system proved remarkably effective. This demonstration of defensive prowess serves a dual purpose. It reassures the Israeli public and leadership of American reliability, and it serves as a stark warning to Iran that its offensive capabilities may not be sufficient to inflict significant damage on Israel, potentially deterring further larger-scale attacks in the immediate future. The immediate casualty of the military exchange between Israel and Iran has been the fragile diplomatic process aimed at curbing Tehran's nuclear ambitions. The 6th round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran, which was scheduled to take place in Oman, has been abruptly cancelled. Following the devastating Israeli strikes on its nuclear and military leadership, Iran formally announced its withdrawal from the negotiations. This move was hardly surprising, as continuing talks with the U.S. while its primary ally was being praised for attacking Iranian soil would have been politically untenable for the leadership in Tehran. The diplomatic track, already stalled, has now ground to a complete halt. The international reaction to the crisis has been a mixture of condemnation and calls for calm, reflecting the deep divisions over the Israeli-Iranian conflict. Leaders in France and Germany, along with the United Nations Secretary-General, have urged maximum restraint from all sides, fearing a wider conflagration that could destabilize the entire globe. Russia has condemned the Israeli strikes and offered to mediate a ceasefire. In contrast, regional powers like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE have also condemned Israel's attack, concerned that such a direct assault could set a dangerous precedent and drag them into a conflict not of their choosing. The airspace over the region has become a no-fly zone, with major airlines suspending flights. These events matter profoundly for the future of peace and stability in the Middle East. The direct military confrontation has shattered the unwritten rules of engagement that previously governed the conflict. With the death of its top military leaders and the severe damage to its nuclear program, Iran is now backed into a corner, facing a choice between further, potentially suicidal escalation or a humiliating acceptance of its losses. For Israel, its successful operation may have bought it time, but it has also isolated it on the world stage and created a volatile situation where a single miscalculation could lead to an all-out war with devastating human and economic costs. This brings the entire region to a critical crossroads, with the path forward shrouded in uncertainty. President Trump continues to insist that a deal is possible, but the climate of violence and mistrust has never been more intense. The central question now is whether diplomacy can genuinely be resurrected from the ashes of this conflict. After such direct and deadly attacks, can leaders in Iran find a way to return to the negotiating table without appearing weak? And can the United States and Israel offer terms that are seen as anything other than a demand for surrender? Or has the cycle of violence now gained a momentum of its own, pushing the Middle East ever closer to a war that no one claims to want?